Hey guys, this is KB1 on vacation. Hope you're having a great day, and if you're new to this channel, hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, share with your friends and family. Let's start this tutorial, guys. So open Photoshop and file, new, select whichever resolution you want. I'm going for 720 by 1080. Width is 720 and height is 1080. So yes, everything default. Click that OK button. Now let's move on to the next step, that is to add a background. Let's add a solid by hitting that button and hitting the solid color. Then select the color which you want. I'm going for the grayish type of color and hit that OK button. Now for the next step, it's easy. Hit that new layer icon, bam, and then go for the brush tool, which you will find here. Then select that brush tool, resize it by open and close brackets. Open brackets for making the brush smaller, close brackets for making the brush larger. Right click and select the hard type brush, that is this, and make sure that is 100% hardness. Now paint over the canvas. We are trying to create a moon here, so let's try to create one similar looking moon. Of course, you know that moon has some spots, dark spots, which we will try to create. This is the color which I took for the moon, and we are going for the night kind of mood, so let's hope it works well. Now let's try to create some spots that are on the moon. First, let's just create a new layer and select a color much more light color than the original one which we selected for the moon. Now let's just paint over the moon by making the brush size smaller and just putting some random spots in the moon. And yes, before that, just link the new layer to the original moon layer, and then just paint. Make sure it has some random spots, make it look like moon basically. So let's just randomly put some spots, make the brush size smaller and larger, and create some roughness around the edges of the circle so that it looks legit. Let's just fast forward this action over here. The next step, select the moon layer and let's add a glow to the moon by heading over to FX panel and selecting the outer glow, that is here, and go to the element section of that and increase the size up to 90 pixels. Try to find your setting that is best for you and keep the spread 0% and make the size up to 90 and opacity up to 42%. You can play with the settings however you want, and keeping the color white. Now just go to the pattern overlay, that is here, and select the blending mode to soft light and set the opacity up to 13%. Again, play with the settings, whichever is best for you. Now let's scale that pattern, and now let's zoom in first and Ctrl plus as always to zoom in, and let's just scale the pattern so that we can see the pattern, how it's affecting the moon. Of course, it's a line one, so let's change it to the dotted ones so it looks rough. The rough texture, it has some rough texture to the moon. Again, scale however you want, and that's it, guys. So I think I'm going for 99%, that is right here, and yes, so let's hit that OK button and we have our pattern. So that's done. Create a new layer and then link that to the spotted layer. Just right click over the canvas and make sure you are selecting the soft brush and select a darker tone of the color which we will try to paint here. So let's just first take a darker color of the original color and then let's try to paint it. Now first of all, just to make sure you are on the right track, just hit 1, 2, 3 or any random number for the opacity of the brush to change. So you can press 2 for 20% and 1 for 10%, 3 for 30%, and then you can paint over it. We are trying to detail this moon up so it tries to look like a moon and not like some weird spots, weird cookie thing. And now I'm sure it looks like a cookie now, but when we add effects and all these layers are all around it, it will definitely look nice. Now I am trying to create it faster for this video purpose, and you can take your time. You can just see whether it's okay for you or not, and then you can go ahead. So let's talking more working. So now let's just select the move tool. Just make sure you create a new layer, and then let's just drag that layer below the moon layer, and we are trying to create some stars, guys. It's night time, it should have some stars. So go to the brush settings. That is, let's first select the star, star brush, which you will find in the description if you don't have it. I think it's in the Photoshop, default Photoshop, so find it, or I will just provide a link in the description to download the brush. So just don't select and drag all over the canvas. Try to make it random, so by making the brush size smaller and larger as we have been doing before, and just to know that what are the settings used for the brush to paint random stars. That are this settings. Spacing is 126% and all this stuff. Yes, to make sure it's spaced out well and it's not just cluttered on one place. So yes, now move on to the next setting, that is shape dynamics. Just make sure it is 1000% and everything is in default. Now move on to the next, that is scattering, and that is also at the maximum. And yes, now just don't paint like this, which I'm doing here. Just try to be random. Make sure it looks good. So just click and leave, click and leave, click and leave. Make sure you're changing the brush size before every time you click. Now just paint and paint. Let's just fast forward it. Now moving on to the next step, again to create a new layer. Then we are trying to create a tree here, so let's select the brush tool, right click and select the tree brush tool, which is link in the description. Download it, guys, and use it. So I will select a brush that I want, that is this, and yes, paint it over it. Now let's just first select the darker color which we need for our mood, and then click OK, and then paint it over here. And wow, it looks nice, right guys? It looks amazing. Like moon is hidden behind those trees, like it looks real. Just make sure your tree looks good, and place it wherever you want, and create a new layer again. And let's just head over to the pen tool, that is selecting that, and just click randomly on the bottom of your canvas, and just connect them and time. Now head over to the selection and click that OK button, so it's selected. Now head over to paint bucket tool, that is this, and paint it over. Let's just first zoom in so that we can see what we are painting, right? So yes, let's just zoom in, and okay, this is weird. Now okay, zoom in. Okay, now let's just paint it over there. As you can see, that is our ground which we are trying to create now. So yes, Ctrl D to deselect it, and then moving on to the next step, that is adding a fucking human. That is this image, link in the description. Double click to unlock this layer, and bam, hit that tool, that is magic wand tool, and bam, hit over the white background and just delete it. Now let's just select that and drop it in here. Now let's just resize it by Ctrl T and then Shift Alt to resize perfectly, and just drag below that tree, and bam, let's just paint this guy. Let's just reposition this layer below the the ground layer, or below the moon layer, and then Ctrl plus to zoom in, and hit V on your keyboard, and yes, now just position where you want your specific object to be, and let's just create a new solid, that is this, and let's just make sure it is the same color as our ground layer, and just link it to the human layer, that is that, and let's make sure that is the human layer which you're selecting. Okay, that's not the human layer. Let's just drop down there and link it to this layer, and bam, that is that. So it looks kind of good. Like, now we are done with that. Now let's just add some what do you say, gradient overlay over this good looking image. Now let's find an mood which we are trying to achieve here. Let's, if you want to find more what do you say, gradient, default gradients, you can hit that icon there and just, yes, you can select whichever you want. And yeah, there are so much of gradients in this default gradient. So let's just try to pick I don't think so we are trying to get this mode. No, this is not the one. Okay, I'm finding something weird about this. All the images, they are not looking good. Anyways, now let's just jump. Let's just select the default one, that is this, which you will find anytime you open that gradient layer. And yes, now let's just blend it with soft light, and let's make sure its opacity is dropped down to somewhat around 59%. And yes, now add a vignette over this layer, and let's just make sure we will drop this opacity up to 20 or somewhat like that. And yes guys, this is it. We are done with our image. You can perfect it by taking more time and doing it soft. So yes, this is it guys.